Compute is currency.
Yet most organizations rent it, paying a toll for every interaction, sending sensitive data elsewhere. There is a quieter, more durable way to invest. Feed your business, not the beast of perpetual vendor dependency. Own your equipment. Keep your knowledge close. Deploy purpose-fit AI on hardware you own. Let's think it through together. Visit inthequiet.org. Welcome to today's Explainer. So, if that opening concept caught your attention, let's really unpack what Lightyear is talking about here. Because when you look at most daily operational work, it is highly specific. We're talking about routing invoices, preparing quotes, digging through service history, or just drafting that next follow-up email. These are those repetitive administrative loops that absolutely eat up a team's time. And Lightyear's main point, well, it's that these specific, well-defined tasks just don't require massive, generalized, cloud-based intelligence. They don't need it. What they actually require is consistency, accuracy, and tight integration with the systems you're already using. When you apply a localized, right-sized AI to these specific jobs, you cut out the administrative waste. And what does that do? It frees up your employees to actually spend their time solving real problems and supporting customers. The work that only humans can do. And that brings us to a really fascinating idea: why purpose actually beats scale. Think about it. When a task is already deeply understood by your team, you can build a smaller, local model entirely around the way your people already work. You aren't forcing your employees to completely change their workflows just to accommodate some generic, clunky chat interface. Instead, the AI is molded to fit the existing operational grooves of your specific business. It's kind of like buying a beautifully custom-tailored suit instead of a one-size-fits-all plastic poncho. Lightyear makes the case that this purpose-fit approach is fundamentally more effective, simply because it is grounded in the reality of your day-to-day operations, not some abstract, generalized capability. It's a tool built specifically for your hand, not a tool built for everyone's hand. Okay, so to really grasp the business case here, we need to break down Lightyear's 3 core pillars for localized AI. This is where we move from a philosophical idea into a hardcore, practical business strategy. The pillars are cheaper, greener, and safer. First up, it's cheaper. Why? Because you finally stop paying for every single interaction. You just eliminate that recurring toll booth of API calls. Second, it's greener, which is super interesting, and we'll dive into that in just a second. And third, it's safer, purely because of data sovereignty. These 3 pillars work perfectly together to create a really compelling argument for stepping away from that cloud-first default everyone is doing and moving toward a localized infrastructure that you actually own. Let's look a little closer at that second pillar, greener. It's no secret that the current AI boom is incredibly energy intensive. We're talking massive data centers consuming staggering, mind-boggling amounts of electricity and water. But purpose-fit local models inherently use way less compute for routine work. If you're using a smaller model tailored strictly to summarize internal documents, you are literally just burning fewer resources than if you asked a massive global model to do that exact same job. By demanding less compute and generating less waste, a localized, right-sized system becomes greener by design. It's a beautifully simple efficiency that helps your bottom line and the environment all at once. All right, now for the safer pillar. And honestly, this is arguably the most critical point for enterprise organizations. The control stays completely with the company. When you rent AI, your sensitive information, your proprietary data, and your deep operating knowledge are constantly being transmitted outside your own walls. Lightyear's thesis states flatly that keeping that sensitive data close to your chest is just the safer path, no question. When the model runs on hardware that you actually own, completely under your control, you aren't suddenly subject to changing terms of service, weird data scraping policies, or external security breaches. The operating context stays entirely with the people doing the work, perfectly preserved right inside your own secure environment. So you're probably wondering, how do they recommend actually doing this in the real world? Well, Lightyear recommends a really pragmatic 3-step lifecycle approach. Step 1, find the work worth supporting. Do not start with the technology. Start with the actual problem. Step 2, build the smallest useful system. Avoid scope creep like the plague. Make it tiny, make it work, and prove its value first. And step 3, expand only when trust is earned. This is a massive departure from that deploy everywhere and figure it out later mentality that we see all the time these days. It's measured, it's careful, and it's designed to protect both the data and the human judgment of the team that's actually using it. Let's zoom in on that initial step for a second. You begin with one single recurring job. You build the smallest useful local system around work that your team already intimately understands. For example, if your team spends 2 grueling hours every single Tuesday formatting specific client reports, Start exactly there, built purpose-fit for that one job. Let the team use it, let them critique it, and let them refine it. And because it's localized and incredibly specific, it either works or it doesn't. There is nowhere for the technology to hide behind some flashy smoke and mirrors demo. Expanding only when it earns trust ensures that the AI actually serves your people, rather than your people having to manage a clunky, cumbersome AI. Which brings us to a concept that is absolutely central to everything LightAir does: stewardship. Their thesis insists, and I mean insists, that AI should strengthen your people, not replace their judgment. Stewardship means training your internal teams to actively understand, supervise, and improve the system. They aren't just blindly throwing prompts into a rented black box hoping for the best, they are actually governing the tool. And it's really worth noting here that a lot of these deeply human-centric ideas stem directly from LightAir's independent research initiative called the Sanctuary Project. That project explores continuity, memory, and stewardship in AI systems. The big takeaway? Good stewardship must stay in-house. Seriously, let the team become the steward. You teach the people closest to the work to guide and improve the system. Why? Because true capability only really grows when human judgment stays in the room. Think about it. An AI doesn't know the weird, nuanced history of your best client, but your team absolutely does. By keeping the humans in the loop, not just as basic operators, but as true stewards, you get a much better fit, a way lower cost, and a highly durable capability. The improvements build on your internal practices, which means the system gets smarter in the exact ways your specific business needs it to. Now let's talk numbers and look at the financial trajectory of this approach, because the savings actually compound. When you replace an endless, perpetual stream of API calls with a capability that your company actually owns and improves locally, the economics shift dramatically. Sure, initially there's an investment in the hardware and the setup, but over time, as the system handles more and more volume without triggering external usage fees every few seconds, the cost per task drops closer and closer to zero. You're no longer financially penalized for scaling your own efficiency. Over time, the economics simply get better and better, which completely inverts the traditional software-as-a-service billing model that traps so many companies. But here's the real kicker. It is not just the savings that compound, it's the capability itself. Because the purpose-fit model uses less compute, and because local ownership cuts out that perpetual API dependence, the system is allowed to iteratively improve around your real workflows, day after day. Every correction your stewards make, every new piece of context they provide, it all stays securely within your walls, making your owned asset more and more valuable. The goal here, as LightAir clearly states, is not to just sign a longer, more expensive vendor contract. The goal is to build genuine capability that your organization gets to keep permanently. We've covered a lot of ground today, exploring the fundamental difference between renting a black box and owning your own capabilities. We've seen exactly how purpose-fit, localized AI can be cheaper, greener, and ultimately safer, provided you actually teach your teams to be true stewards of the technology. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct, slightly provocative question drawn straight from LightAir's thesis. It's something every single business leader needs to be asking themselves right now. When the hype fades, when the current budget cycle ends, what will remain after your AI pilot? Will you just be holding an expired contract, or will you have built an organization that is fundamentally stronger? Think about it.